Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Melech ol haaretz kivodo.
והאופנים וחיות הקודש, ברעש גדול מנסים לעומת אלפים, לעומת המשבחים, ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני במקומו.
We turn to page 236, and this morning we'd like to invite Logan and Matt and Andrea to come forward and to lead us in a responsive reading.
God's great power is in all that is new and worthy. God is with us when we struggle to make a better world.
When we struggle to promote justice for all, the God of justice strengthens our resolve.
When we struggle to advance the triumph of truth, the God of truth fortifies our will.
When we struggle to promote the cause of freedom, the God of freedom sustains our striving.
When we struggle to create a world at peace, the God of peace blesses our labors.
The Lord is the champion of all just struggles, summoning us in love to enhance creation.
May a new light soon shine upon Zion, and may we be worthy to delight in its splendor.
Amen.
O Chadash al Zion Ta'ir, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו, מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות.
Turning to pages 238 and 240, Ahava Rabbah, we are reminded of God's unconditional love for us.
Shalom, me'arba kanfot haaretz, v'tolichenu komemiot le'artzenu, ki epo eshotata, ובנו בחרת מכל עם ולשון, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול, סלע באמת, להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוקר מעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך. We're seated and continue quietly on page 244.
והיה אם שמוע תשמעו אל מצוותי אשר לכם.
Joining together in the middle of page 245. Therefore, keep these words of mine in your heart and in your soul. Bind them as a sign upon your arm and let them be a reminder above your eyes. Teach them to your children, speaking of them when you are at home and when you are away, when you lie down at night and when you rise up in the morning. Write them upon the doorposts of your homes and upon your gates. Thus your days and the days of your children will be multiplied on the land, which the Lord promised to your ancestors, for as long as the heavens remain over the earth. Page 246.
ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור דבר בני ישראל. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We turn now to page 251, and we're excited this morning to invite Adam and Randy Bennett to come forward and lead us in responsive reading. Page 251.
You have been the help of our ancestors from days of old, a shield and a redeemer to their children in every generation.
Though you abide in the heights of the universe, your laws of righteousness reach to the ends of the earth.
Happy is the person who obeys your commandments, who takes to heart the words of your Torah.
Truly, you are the Lord of your people and a mighty sovereign to champion their cause.
You are the first and you are the last. Besides you, we have no sovereign or redeemer.
From Egypt you redeemed us, O Lord our God. From the house of bondage you delivered us.
You revealed your saving power at the sea when the children of Israel passed through in safety.
Tyranny was defeated, enslavement was ended. The dawn of freedom had come at last.
Therefore they praised and extolled you. They offered you prayers of fervent thanksgiving.
They acclaimed you as the ever-living God, great and revered, exalted in majesty.
You humble the haughty and raise up the lowly. You free the captives and redeem the weak.
You help those in need and answer your people when they cry out to you.
Give praise to God on high.
Amen, amen, amen. We're going to turn to page 252.
Ihilo le'elyon baruch hu mevorach Moshe u'bnei Yisrael lekanu shila V'simcha rabba yamaru kulam Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi chamocha nedal b'kodesh Nora tehilot ozevele Shira kadash hashibko geolim leshimka Al safat hayam Yakad kulam hodu vehimliku ve'amru Adonai melok le'olam va'ed Sur Yisrael kuma bezrat Yisrael V'dek l'meka Yehuda ve'Yisrael Golenu Adonai tzvaot shemo Elosh Yisrael Baruch ata Adonai Gal Yisrael.
Turning to page 255 for our Shacharit Amidah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham, Be'ezarat Sarah. Atah gibor leolam Adonai, Mekayem etim, Atah Rav lehoshia. מקלקל חיים בחסד, מקיים מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים רופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומטמיע ישועה, ולמען אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני לחיי המתים.
256.
La 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 la. La 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 la. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנסים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ימקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון, וקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתקדש ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים, ויהננו תהירנה מלכותך. הדבר אמור בשירי עוזך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור הגיגות לך, ולנצח נצחים קדושת כזאת איש, לשבקך אלוהינו מפינו ליבוש אל המועד. כל מלך גדול וקדוש, אתה ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We continue in quiet prayer from page 258 through page 266. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. O source of peace and harmony in the universe, grant peace to us all, to the household of Israel, and to all humankind. And together we say, Amen.
Amen. יתקדל ויתקדש שם אלוהה, ילמד יברך כרותי וימליק מלכותי וחי כל נביומי כל נבחי כל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב וימרו, אמן. יהי שבירה במברך, לעולם עולם מעלמיה. יתברך ויסתבח ויתאהב ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ולכל אל אמין כל ברכתה ושירתה ושבחתה ונקמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צלות הטובת הון כל ישראל קדם ובהון ושמיה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה משמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו והוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו Amen.
We pause at this time in our service to invite those people who will be coming up to the Bima for an Aliyah this morning to join us in the front section of our sanctuary so that we can properly guide you. And the rest of the community we invite to turn to page 312 as we begin the service of the taking out of the Torah, page 312.
En kamoka Elohim Adonai, ve'en kemasecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. הרחמים היטיבה ברצונך את ציון, תבנה כמות ירושלים, Ibne komot Yerushalayim, Ki v'kol vad bataknu, Melech el ram v'nisa Adon olamim. Vayehi ben Aharon, vayomer Moshe, Uma Adonai, viafutzu oivecha, veyanusu misanecha, ipanecha, imitzion tetzeh Torah, imitzion tetzeh Torah, udvar Adonai, Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan, Ola Torah, Baruch Shenatan, Ola Torah, Le'amo Israel, Ikedushato.
Elohai techer et libi ve'ametz et ritzuni liot ne'emana la Torah. Barcheni ba'ahavat Yisrael va'ahavat habriot. Amen.
Amen.
Dear God, I thank you for the privilege of becoming a bar mitzvah. In this way, I become a part of the great heritage of the Jewish people. On this day, I move closer to becoming an adult Jew who both receives the joys and accepts the responsibilities of our ancient tradition. I pledge to be loyal to our faith and pass it along to future generations. Thank you for the love of my family and friends. May I be a source of pride and happiness to them always. Amen.
Amen.
We thank you, O Lord, for the privilege of sharing in this moment. We thank you for the joy of seeing Olivia stand on the edge of adulthood, truly a sign of hope for our future.
May Olivia continue to grow in accordance with the spirit of this occasion and to bring pride and happiness to all who know and love her. We thank you for this great blessing. Amen.
Amen.
Page 316.
Bebe anarakit, belish mekadisha, arisha yakira, ana emartush bekan, be anarakit, be anarakit, belish mekadisha, arisha yakira, ana emartush bekan, yelavakadamak, detivtak libi veoraita, vetashlem mishalin delibi, belibra de koramak Israel, vetavul kain, velishlam. Amen.
Page 320.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Shema, Shemo, Yakdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula, v'hagevura, v'hatiferet, v'hanetzach v'hahod. Yikol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz, Yikol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlaka, ve'amid na'aseh. Rammemu, Rammemu, Adonai Eloheinu, Vehistakavu, Vehistakavu, La'adom raglav, Kadoshu. Rammemu, Rammemu, Adonai Eloheinu, Vehistakavu, Vehistakavu, Le'ahar Kodesho, Ikadosh, 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 Adonai Eloheinu.
You may be seated. And Livia is sharing with us this morning some words about the Torah portion from which we are reading by way of introducing us to today's material.
Shabbat Shalom. My Torah portion is about respecting others in both desired and undesirable situations, as well as how to feel in others' emotions. In my Torah portion, it says, "You shall not steal, you shall not deal deceitfully or falsely by name, profaning the name of your God," according to a section of my portion. I chose to share this with you because many people don't realize that everyone is different. That does not mean you should treat them differently. Just that there will always be consequences if you mistreat someone or something. I personally found this section very interesting. It said, "You must fear your God and not offend the deaf or put a stumbling stone in front of the blind." This is intriguing to me since it implies that just because something looks different than another, it does not mean it should be mistreated. "I am your God, and you shall not hate your kinsfolk in your heart. You shall reprove your relative, but bear no guilt because of him." This has a meaning to me that you can only despise someone with your emotions, not actually hate them. Finally, one thing we can all learn of my Torah portion is that you shall constantly be mindful that many people will be different, but this does not mean that we should treat them rudely. My Torah portion also guides us that you shall not misrepresent measures of length, weight, or capacity. You shall have an honest balance, honest weights, honest ephah, and honest hin. Now for my Torah portion, I hope that we can all be mindful that we all should never make a snap judgment about someone or something, because what you do or say to them might harm them for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
You can follow this morning's reading in the Eitz Chaim Chumash, page 699, verse 26. Page 699, verse 26.
ויעזור ויגן וישלח על החוסים בו ונאמר אמן. הכל הבו גודל אלוהינו תנו כבוד לתורה יעמוד ראשון ברוך שנתן תורה עם ישראל בקדושתו. ואתם הדבקים אדוני אלוהיכם חיים כולכם היום.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch
Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'cha banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
אמן. לא תאכלו על האדם, לא תנחשו ולא תרננו, לא תקיפו פאת ראשכם, ולא תשחית את פאת זקניך, וסרת לנפש. לא תיתנו בבשרכם, וכתובת קרקע לא תיתנו בכם. אני אדוני.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu et Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tzodkenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Yamot sheni.
Baruch Hu es Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'karbanu mikol ha'amim, v'nasan lanu es toraso. Baruch atah Adonai nosen haTorah.
Amen. אל תחלל את ביתך להזנותה, ולא תזנה הארץ ומלאה הארץ זימה. את שבתותי תשמרו ואת מקדשי תיראו. אני אדוני. אל תבנו אל האובות ואל הידעונים, אל תבקשו לטומאה בהם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. מפני שיבה תקום והדרת פני זקן, ויראת מאלוהיך. אני אדוני.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher nasan lanu Torah emes, v'chayei olam nata b'sochenu. Baruch atah Adonai nosen haTorah.
Amen. Ya'amod shlishit. You can stay right over here for us. Take your fringes. Take the fringes of your towel. Touch it right there. Kiss it.
Baruch Hu es Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'cha bonu mikol ha'amim, v'nosen lanu es chotorah. Toraso. Baruch atah Adonai nosen haTorah.
Amen. V'chi yagor itecha ger be'aretzechem, lo tonu oto kezrach mikem. Yeh lachem hager hagar itechem. ויאהבת לו כמוך, כי גרים הייתם בארץ מצרים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, לא תעשו עוול במשפט, במידה, במשקול ובמשורה. מאזני צדק אבני צדק, איפת צדק, והנה צדק יהיה לכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, ושמרתם את כל חוקותיי ואת כל משפטיי, ועשיתם אותם. אני אדוני.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher nosan lonu Torah es emes v'chayi olam. Shabbat. What is it here? I can't remember. Otaba nokenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
It's our tradition to pause at this time during our reading of Torah to offer prayer for those we know who are in need of healing. We'll rise together as a congregation for the healing prayer, the Mishaberach. You can find the text on the back inside cover of the Chumashim.
Bekor habraka leimotenu, may the source of strength who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu, bekor abraka leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, a renewal of body, a renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
As we're seated, I'm going to ask Brennan to come forward and share with us this morning some additional thoughts about the Torah portion.
Shabbat Shalom. My Torah portion is about God telling the Israelites some new rules. For example, God tells them that whenever you sacrifice an offering to God, you have to eat whatever you sacrificed on the day you sacrifice it or the next day, but you are not allowed to eat it on the third day. Why does God tell us not to eat the offering on the third day? Well, maybe it will go bad, but as one of the Etz Chaim commentaries says, God may be telling us this so less fortunate people can get something to eat. Since we sacrifice such a big animal, it is too much for one family to eat within 2 days. This would encourage people to invite the poor to help eat the sacrifice. The next part of the portion is about Peah and Leket. Peah says that when you harvest your land, you should leave the corners of your field for the poor. Leket, similar to Peah, is when you leave the fallen harvest for the poor to collect. Just like the laws about sacrifices, these laws help the poor get food. This leads me to another important part of my portion. Treating your neighbor as you would treat yourself, or in Hebrew, ve'ahavta lare'echa kamocha. Don't get me wrong, the other 3 things are very important, but this is what is known as the golden rule. This rule helps society function, so instead of people being mean to each other, they help each other out. Another way this law can be interpreted is that what goes around comes around, so you have the potential to spread good and bad things to other people. We want the good things. This rule helps people in any society build trust and good relationships. Love your neighbor as yourself is very broad, yet very important. It is basically the Torah in one sentence. Martin Buber connects this commandment to a previous commandment that says, "You shall not seek or take vengeance or bear a grudge. He says that every human being is connected to each other, so to hurt another person in order to get revenge is also hurting yourself. Going out of your way to get back at someone often doesn't make you feel better and may even make you feel worse. Even though treating others how you want to be treated is known as the golden rule, I personally struggle trying to figure out which one of these rules is more important. The truth of the matter is that these rules are equally important. Treating others the way you want to be treated can connect not eating your sacrifice on the third day, Peah, and Leket, because those three rules have to do with treating others kindly. My family values treating people with kindness. When I was turning 9 years old, instead of keeping gifts for myself, I donated them to a children's hospital because they needed them more. I hoped that by donating toys to sick children would make them happy during a time that was difficult. Another example of my family and me treating others with kindness is that we keep bags of food and toiletries in our cars, called blessing bags, so that if we see a homeless person, we can give them food, water, and toiletries. When I help people who are less fortunate than me, it makes me feel accomplished and proud of myself. Giving others giving to you ties the community together and benefits everyone. Maybe this is one of the reasons that God tells us all these rules. Thank you.
Follow the fourth Aliyah, page 700 in Humashim.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Ve'el b'nei Yisroel tomar. Ish mibnei Yisroel umin Hagar b'Yisroel asher yiten misru l'molech Moshe yomu am haaretz yirakimuhu ba'ben bani eten espenai b'Yishahu v'hikrati eten mikrov amu ki mizra'u niten l'molech l'ma'an tema es mikodoshi v'halel eshim kodishi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata betoheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
June 11th.
Mitchell Cooper, Nicole Mizrahi, coming forward to thank God for the gift of the blessing of their relationship, the love that they have discovered with one another. Looking forward to their wedding in June, in early June. Why are you getting married in June in Florida? Why don't you? It's too late. You're not going to rearrange it at this point, right? So a couple things I would ask you to consider today. One is something maybe to look back to the past months and years, and what was the gift that you found with one another that enabled you to fall in love? What were the qualities and characteristics that you saw in each other to say, which you'll say under the chuppah, you are the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. If a challenge confronts me, I need to face that challenge with you. If a joy in life comes to me, and I hope there are many, I need to share it with you. That's the way I can be most joyful. So what were those feelings? How did they come to you? And where will you take them? And that's the other thing I would ask you to consider today. You'll stand under that chuppah for about 20 minutes, and when you leave the space of the chuppah, you are not single anymore. You are united in the most powerful way that people can choose to be united as husband and wife. And what are the hopes and dreams that you have in your hearts today that you hope to uncover together in the years that you will share and in the married relationship that you will create, the home that you will build, a home of spirit, a home of spirit. Torah portion today is Kiddushim, meaning holiness, and our tradition suggests that when a man and woman become husband and wife, love helps them get to that point, but what helps them sustain their relationship is treating one another as something that is holy. Holiness, more than love even, gives us the gift of God's presence in our lives every single day. Now you're here with generations of family celebrating with you. I'd like to ask them to stand this time. And we'll say the Shechianu blessing. It's a blessing we use to thank God for helping us reach significant moments of life. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. And our prayer for you today is this. Mishaberach Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak Yaakov, Imotenu Sar Rivka Rachav Aleah, Huivarech et hachatan Adon Melech ben Pesach Ruvenu Bluma, V'etakala Letana Hava bat Mordechai uMichal, Ba'avorsha alu hayom lichvod makom, lichvod Torah, lichvod Shabbat, V'asher bekarov yikansu lechupa, Yiratzon shoyizku livenot bayit beYisrael, asher bo yishkanu Ahava v'achava shalom v'rayut bayit asher bo yigadlu banim b'vriyut u'v'osher v'ahavat Torah v'ma'asim tovim v'nomar amen. All of which means, may God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless his groom Mitchell, his beautiful bride Nicole. They will soon stand together under the chuppah and be joined together as husband and wife. In the years ahead, may they build a home devoted to the ideals of Jewish life, based on love, harmony, peace, companionship, and compromise. May they be blessed with healthy family, devoted to the ideals of our tradition, and may they be privileged over and over again in the years ahead to stand together for the most sacred moments of life. I'm pleased today to be able to give you a gift. I don't know if this is probably not the first wedding gift you're getting, one of many. This is a beautiful mezuzah, so I hope you'll take it, hang it on the doorpost of your home. Remember this moment, your devotion to the ideals of our tradition, and that sense of holiness that you'll build inside of that home with family and friends. Gift that's made possible by Howard Janet and his wife Rena, a blessed memory, who had a beautiful Jewish home, and I hope that carries forward into the life that you make together.
Thank you very much.
Hold on one sec, I think the canner.
עוד יש שמה בערי יהודה ובחוצות ירושלים, עוד יש שמה בערי יהודה ובחוצות ירושלים, כל ששון וכל שמחה, כל חתן וכל כלה, כל ששון וכל שמחה, כל חתן וכל כלה. מזל טוב.
Tov, Mazel Tov. If anyone wants a snack, you can come forward. Particularly if you're under the age of bar bat mitzvah, you can come and grab a snack. Joe, I do want to say that I think Annette's candy traveled farther than yours in the throwing.
יעמוד חמישי.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach li'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Ve'im chalem yalimu Am haaretz et einehem min ha'ish hahu betito mizaro lamolech levilti hamit oto vesamti ani et panai be'ish hahu uvmishpachto vechikrati oto ve'et kol hazonim acharav liznot acharei hamolech mikerav amam vehanefesh asher tifnei el ha'avot ve'el ha'idonim liznot achareihem venatati et panai benefesh hahu vechikrati oto mikerav amo.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu toras emes, v'chayei olam notah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamavara. Baruch Adonai Hamavara Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bar harbanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vehi kadish tem, vehi tem kadoshim, ki ani Adonai Elohechem, ushmartem et chukotai, ve'asitem oto, vechikrati oto, ani Adonai mekadishchem, ki ish, asher yikalel et aviv, ve'et imo mot yumat, Aviv ve'imo ki lel damav bo.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach. Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher barcha banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ve'ish asher yinaf et eshet ish asher yinaf et eshet re'ehu mot yumat hanoach ve'hanoafet ve'ish asher yishkav et eshet aviv ervat aviv gila mot yumatu shnehem demehem bam ve'ish asher yishkav et kalato mot yumatu shnehem tevel asu demehem bam.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emes v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Last, if the congregation will please rise for Chatzi Kaddish.
יתקדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמא יברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחיי כל ביום יכון, ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם עולם מעלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי קודשא בריחו, לילה בכל ברכתה ושירתה, ושמקתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא, ויאמרו Amen. Amod Hanara Abat Mitzvah Nesapia Bat Moshe Ve'adira Liora Maftira His key.
May be seated. You can follow Olivia's chanting of her maftir portion in the Chumash, page 703, verse 22. Page 703, verse 22. If you're following at home, it's Leviticus chapter 20, 22nd verse.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, Venatan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Ushmartem et kol hukotai, et kol mishpatai, vasitem otam, velo taki etchem haaretz asher ani mevi etchem shama lashevet ba, velo telechu vehuko tagoy asher ani Meshaleach mipinechem, ki et kol ele asu v'akutz bam. V'omar lachem atem, tirshu et anmatam, v'ani etenena lachem, laresh et otam, eretz Zavat halav udvash, ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hivdalti etchem min ha'amim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam nata betochenu, Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah.
Olivia, when we met, I remember one of the things that your dad mentioned to me is that your name came from his grandfather, I think. So, what's that? Grandmother. So it would be your great-grandmother. And this is one of those days, in so many ways, it's really about family, that sense of feeling connected to family, both those who are here and also those who are not here, but have helped us become the people we are today in so many different ways, such an important part of our lives. And part of what you have done today is to honor that sense of memory, spirit of your great-grandmother, certainly, but all the generations of your family who have come before you, and they chose to live a Jewish life, and you are making that choice to do that in a new way today. So you read from the Torah just a moment ago, and in that moment, you embraced your Jewish heritage, and I would suggest the Jewish heritage that we all share, the heritage that binds us together as Jewish community. But, Olivia, you do it very much in your own way, and you should do it in your own way. You're a modern young woman, you live in a new time, certainly than previous generations, and you live in a way that maybe previous generations would not have lived. You're an athlete with the lacrosse and the soccer, you're a drummer in the marching band, I know, involved in the broadcast team, we talked about that as well. And you know, we don't think about it very often, but the truth is, generation ago, certainly 2 generations ago, by and large, women were not involved in those kinds of things. Certainly 2 generations ago, women were not called to the Torah in this honor becoming bat mitzvah. But you do all of those things, you do them all well, and you do it with a competitive spirit that you have, incredible energy that you've been blessed with, and as Rabbi Sorokin and I know from having you in class with us throughout the year, with really a beautiful thoughtfulness and a mature understanding of the world around you as it is, and a sense of the world around you as you would like it to be. So as you have brought your spark and spirit to this day, which we all so deeply appreciate, we hope you will bring it to every day in the months and years that are ahead of you, and that every day in your life should feel as blessed as this day has been. And we say for you, Mishaberach, Avotenu Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Imotenu Sar, Rivka, Leah, Hui Varech, the Bachara, Bat Mitzvah, Nessa Pia, Bat Moshe, Vadira Liora, Ba'avor She'al Tahayom, Lichvod HaMakom, Lichvod HaTorah, Lichvod HaShabbat, Lichvod Chagigat, Habat Mitzvah Shalah, V'nomar, Amen.
Yamod Abachor Habar Mitzvah Lebel Chaim ben Ra'anan Ephraim Besara Gitol Maftir Hazak.
Baruch hu et Adonai hambarach. Baruch Adonai hambarach l'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Vehivdaltem ben ha'behema ha'tahora la'tameah. Uvein ha'of ha'tameh la'tahor, velo tishaksu en nafshotechem ba'behema uva'ov. Uvcho asher tirmos ha'adama asher hivdalti lachem letameh. Vehitem li kadoshim ki kadosh ani Adonai va'avdil etchem min ha'amim lihiot li ve'isho isha ki yeh. Bahem of Oyedonim Yumatu Ba'evan Yurgmo Tam Demehem Bam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Brennan, it's hard for me to think of another young person in my 23 years at Bethel who was called to the Torah with the kind of Bethel pedigree that you bring to this moment. You're a 5th generation member of our congregation. Israel and Rebecca Massing, founding members of Bethel when the congregation came into existence in 1948. That's your family. And I'd just like you and your family to think for a moment about how the family's been connected to Bethel through the last 74 years. celebrating weddings, including your parents and grandparents, all at Bethel with Bethel clergy, thinking of B'nai Mitzvah, to include your dads who stood right here when he became bar mitzvah, and also your grandmother's bat mitzvah here at Bethel, and how babies have been named in your family here in the synagogue as well and through the congregation. And I would suggest to you that when your great-great-grandparents helped to form the congregation 74 years ago, that they had no idea that Bethel would become this kind of place. They had absolutely no idea. But I bet they did have a dream that in some way their family through the generations would remain connected to the congregation, and that the congregation would play a holy and significant part in the life of that family. And that's exactly what has happened. Leadership roles your family has served in, all of those life cycle events, and look, here you stand today, reading from the Torah, becoming bar mitzvah yourself. It really is l'dor vador, one generation to the next. But it is your turn today, Brennan. It's your turn, and you enter the community as an adult Jew for the very first time. So it's just on the cusp of summer, and I know that camp is an important part of your life, Camp area. I'm sure you're beginning to look forward to that. You can kind of feel it coming, the anticipation. I know you also love to play tennis. I would not suggest playing tennis outdoors today, but if you have an indoor court somewhere, okay, you can go ahead and play. But I also know that the tradition comes into your hand as exactly the kind of person who will carry the tradition forward, who will carry Judaism forward. Kind and caring heart that you've been blessed with, compassion for other people, and the determination that you have at the very core of who you are, not only to do well, which you do in everything, but to do good. What I mean by that is to make sure that the world is a better place because you are in it. You should live in that spirit every single day of your life. And so we say for you, Mishaberach, Avotenu, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Rachab, Leah, Vivarachet, Abachor, Habar Mitzvah, Label, Chaim, Ben Ra'anan, Ephraim, Vasara, Gittel, Ba'avor, She'alah, Hayom, Lichvod HaMakom, Lichvod HaTorah, Lichvod HaShabbat, Lichvod Chagigat, Habar Mitzvah Shalo, V'nomar, Amen.
Amen.
Congregation, please rise in honor of the Torah.
Yamdu Hamagbia v'Hagolel.
So we're going to lift the Torah, dress it, then it'll be Haftarah time.
Get your Haftarah. Let's bring it up to your shoulder with the brachot.
בזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה.
You can follow this morning's Haftarah in the Chumash, page 714, verse 2. Page 714, second verse, and you may be seated.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratzah b'divrei hana'amarim v'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah v'Moshe avdo v'Yisrael amo v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen.
Vayhi Adonai Elai lemor ben Adam daber etiknei Yisrael ve'amarta lehem ko amar Adonai Elohim hydrosh oti atem ba'im chai ani imi daresh lachem ne'um Adonai Elohim hatishpot otam hatishpot ben Adam et toavot avotam hodiyim ve'amarta alehem Ko amar Adonai Elohim bayom bachari b'Yisrael ve'asayadi lazera beit Yaakov v'ivada lachem be'eretz Mitzrayim ve'asayadi lachem lemor ani Adonai Elechem bayom hahu nasati yadi lachem l'hotziam me'eretz Mitzrayim el eretz asher tarti lachem Zavat, chalav, udavash, Tvihi lechol haratzot, va'omar alehem, Ishikutse einav hishlichu, ugilei mitzrayim loaz, ugilei mitzrayim altitamau, ani Adonai lechem. Vayamruvi, velo avu, lishmoa elai, ish etchikutse einehem lo, hishlichu, bet gilei mitzrayim lo azavu, va'omar, lishpo chamati alehem, v'chalot api bahem, betoch eretz mitzrayim, ve'as laman shemi, levioti chechel, le'enei hagoyim asher hema betocham, asher nodati alechem, le'eneihem, le'otiam me'eretz mitzrayim, ve'otiem me'eretz mitzrayim, ve'aviem el hamidbar.
Va'etein lahem etukotai vet mishpatai hodati otam asher yaseh otam adam v'chai v'chem v'gam et shabbatotai natati lahem lihiyot le'ot beini u'beineihem Ladat ki ani Adonai mikadesham vayamru vi beit Yisrael v'midbar v'hukotai l'halahu ve'et mishpatai ma'asu asher yaseh otam ha'adam v'chai v'chem Ve'et shabbatotai hilalu me'od va'omar lishpoch chamati alehem v'midbar lechalotam va'eseh lema'an shemi levilti chechel le'enei hagoim asher hotetim le'eneihem Vegam ani nasati yadi lachem bamidbar levilti havi otam el haaretz asher natati zavat chalav udvash zevichi l'chol haratzot Ya'an b'mishpatai ma'asu ve'et hukotai v'halechu v'achem ve'et shabbatotai hilelu ki hayregu lehem libam olech ve'et shabbatotai kadeshu v'chayu le'ot beini Ladat ki ani Adonai Elohechem Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Sor kol haolamim Sajik b'chol hadorot Ha'el ha'ne'eman Ha'omer ve'oseh Ha'meraber mekayim Shekol devarav emet v'tzedek Ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ne'emanim devarecha Ve'devar echad midvarecha Achor lo yashuv recham Ki el-melech ne'eman Brachaman atah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el ha'ne'eman Bechol devarav Rachem al Sion ki bein hayenu velalu vat nefesh toshia imchera ve'amenu baruch atah Adonai misameach Sion bevanecha samecheinu Adonai Eloheinu be'Eliyahu hanavi avdecha u'v'malchut bet David meshiphecha b'mchera yavo ve'yagel libenu al kiso lo yeshev zar ve'lo hinchalot acherim et chavodo ki v'shem kodshecha nishbata lo shelo yichben nero le'olam ba'ed baruch atah Adonai Magen David Al HaTorah Al HaBodad Al HaNevi'im Al HaShabbat Hazeh Shenatata Lanu Adonai Eloheinu Likedusha V'limenucha L'chavod U'letifaret Al HaKol Adonai Eloheinu Anachnu motim lach umevarchim atach yitbarach shimcha befiko hai tamid leolam va'ed baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen.
Thank you.
Turning in our prayer books now to page 336 for the responsive chanting of Ashrei. Page 336. Brooklyn, come up.
Ashrei Yeshvei Beitecha, O Yalucha Selah.
Ashrei ha'am shekakalo, Ashrei ha'am sh'Adonai Elohav.
Tehillah leDavid, Aramimcha Elohai HaMelech, V'rabacha Shimcha le'olam va'ed.
B'kol yom avarechecha, v'halala shimcha le'olam va'ed.
Gadol Adonai mulal me'od, ve'ligdoto ein cheker.
Gol Adonai yeshabach ma'asecha, u'gevurotecha yagidu.
Hadar kevod hodecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha.
Ve'ezuz nodotecha yomeru, u'gedulatcha ataprena.
Zecher avtucha yabiu, ve'tzitchacha yaranenu.
Anun v'rakum Adonai, erech apayim u'gedol chesed.
Tov Adonai lachol, v'rachaman al kol ma'asav.
Yoduka Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'chasideke yevarechuka.
Kevod malchutcha yomeru, ugvurotecha yedaberu.
להודיע לבני האדם גבורותיו, וכבוד הדר מלכותו.
Malchutcha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol davador.
שומק אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
Einen kol lecha yesaberu, ve'ata noten lahem et oklam beito.
פותח את ידך, ומשביע לכל קי רצון.
Tzadik Adonai bechol drachav, ve'asid bechol masav.
הרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יקראוהו באמת.
Reitzon Yeruya Yasef, ve'et shavatam yishman ve'yashiem.
שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, ואת כל הרשעים ישמיד.
Tehilat Adonai yedaber pi, v'varek kol bashar shem kodshol olam va'ed.
ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם, הללויה.
Ve'anachnu nevarech ya, me'ata ve'ad olam, hallelujah.
As we turn to page 340, we'll rise, returning the Torah to the Ark. Page 340.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו. הודו על הארץ ושמיים, היה להם קרן לעמו. תהילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל עם קרובו. הללויה, הללויה.
Modeh ani lefanecha, Adonai Elohai ve'Elohei avotai, al shekiyamtani layom hazeh, shebo ani mekabel alai, ol malchut shemayim. Yehi ratzon milfanecha, la'ametz et ratzoni, ultaher et libi, כדי שאזכה להיות יהודי נאמן לתורתך, לעמי ולארצי. Amen.
Amen.
Dear God, I thank you for the privilege of becoming a bar mitzvah. In this way, I become a part of the great heritage of the Jewish people. On this day, I take my place in the community of Israel as an adult Jew who accepts the responsibilities and rejoices in the many blessings of our ancient tradition. I pledge to be loyal to our faith and pass it along to future generations. Thank you for the love of my family and friends. May I be a source of pride and happiness to them always. Amen.
Amen.
We thank you, O Lord, for the privilege of sharing in this moment. We thank you for the joy of seeing Brennan stand on the edge of adulthood, truly a sign of hope for our future.
May Brennan continue to grow in accordance with the spirit of this occasion and to bring pride and happiness to all that know and love him. We thank you for this great blessing.
Amen.
Page 346.
Ilekach tov natati lachem, torati al tazovu, eitz chaim hi, lama kazikima, vetom cheha, veushal, elacheha, kalkenoam, vekol tivoteha, shalom, ashivenu Adonai, eleka v'nashuva, Kadesh, Kadesh Yameinu, Kadesh Yameinu, Yekedem. Amen.
May be seated. As always, a pleasure to have with us Rabbi Ben Shalva.
Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today. I've always wanted to do that. And while the topic of our discussion this morning and what has brought us today is not specifically marriage, the Torah portion this week is Parshat Kedoshim, which means the section of the Torah dealing with holiness. And I thought there's no better way to investigate this term holiness and look at it in a deeper way than to look at marriage. B'shat tova, mazal tov. To look at marriage, because marriage itself, the Hebrew word for marriage, is holiness. Kiddushim. That's what we call the marriage itself. It's also what we call that ceremony at the kind of mountaintop, the peak of the wedding, rituals. When the rings are exchanged, we call that kiddushin. We call that a moment of holiness. When the groom says to the bride, "Harei at mikudeshet li," and says, "You are made holy to me." So what are they saying? What are they saying, these two beneath the chuppah? What are they saying when they're saying, "You are made holy to me"? Well, one of the definitions that we see that immediately springs out from the marriage ceremony, from the very idea of marriage, is that kadosh, holiness, means separate and special. Separate and special. The first ritual that we do at the wedding is called erusin, actually, and this is the engagement blessing that used to be way back a year before the actual chuppah ceremony, the actual wedding ceremony. But if you look at the blessing for engagement, which again now we do under the chuppah, it basically says you are now special to each other. You can't be with each other the way you are, or you can't be with anyone else the way you are with each other. You're separate. Things are special now. Just the two of you. Now, this seems like a great definition for holiness. Separate, special, beautiful. Wedding couples, looking so lovely, shining bright, special to each other. This is fantastic. This is not what we see in the Torah. And so I'm confused. And let me explain what I mean by that. Parsha Kiddushim, which begins by saying you, the Jewish people, need to be kadosh. You need to be special. Okay, we're sitting there at Sinai going, great. I love being special. I'm excited about this. Tell us what to do, God. Tell us what to do. And the next thing that happens is that we get an entire portion that discusses why you are not special. I'll just give you a few examples. One of the rules we get in this week's Torah portion is for judges. I had the honor of sitting next to a judge during most of this service. Now, judges are not supposed to give special treatment to the poor or the rich or to anyone else in the community. Judges are meant to look out at someone who is accused of a crime or whatever it is, or there's two disputants, and the judge is supposed to say, neither of you, let's say, who are, imagine Judge Judy here, and you got two people arguing, and the judge says, neither of you are special. Which, by the way, Judge Judy does great. For some reason, Men's Warehouse only has Judge Judy running on their TV screens. So whenever I have to get a shirt or something, it's always Judge Judy the entire time, and I'm sitting there waiting, so I watch a lot of it. Now, Judge Judy never says, you're special, you're not, because the job of a judge is to not do that. To say, I don't care that you're rich, or you're poor, or you're famous, or you're some schmo. What do I care? There's another great example I want to share with you now of the Torah portion telling us that we are not special. This is great. The Torah here in this week's parsha says, "Lo tikom v'lo titor et bnei amecha, v'ahavta l'recha kamocha." Do not take vengeance. Don't take revenge or bear a grudge against your countrymen. Now, what does this have to do with specialness? Well, there's a great midrash. The Talmud gives us a little background. It says, what does it mean to take revenge, says the Talmud. And it gives an example. You got two neighbors. Neighbor number one, we'll call him Plony, goes over to neighbor number two, Almoni. And Plony says to Almoni, hey, can I borrow your sickle? That's the example in the Talmud. Yeah, it's back in the day. Well, so Almoni says to Plony, no, you can't borrow my sickle. Okay. The next day, the Talmud says, Almoni goes over to Plony and says, hey, can I borrow your hatchet? And Plony says to Almoni, no, you didn't let me borrow your sickle yesterday, so you cannot borrow my hatchet today. And the Talmud says that is nikima, that is revenge. Well, so if that's revenge, then what is bearing a grudge? Now, this is where I think it gets very interesting. The Talmud gives another example. It says, Plony, forget that first example. We're wiping the slate clean. Plony goes over to Almoni and says, can I borrow your sickle? Almoni says, no, you can't borrow my sickle. Okay, next day. Almoni goes up to Plony and says, can I borrow your hatchet? Plony says, yes, you can borrow my hatchet. And then Plony adds a line that the Talmud says. Plony says, yes, you can borrow my hatchet because I am not like you. And gives him the hatchet. And the Torah says, you can't do this either. You can not only not take revenge by if someone hurts you, someone strikes you, you don't strike back, right? But you can't even think of yourself as all high and mighty because you turn the other cheek, because you are generous when someone else isn't. The Torah says, no, you're not special. Don't care how many hatchets you lend out. You're just like everybody else. And then the beautiful, beautiful icing on the cake of this week's Parsha, reminding us that we are not special. We are not separate. Is this beautiful and very, very profound line where it says in this week's Torah portion, when a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not wrong him. The stranger, some foreigner, someone we don't know, someone we've never met. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as one of your citizens. You shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I, the Lord, am your God. You can't even consider yourself special because you're a Jew, or because you live with your tribe, or because, you're part of this village, you know each other. Some random person enters your community who you've never seen, you don't know. And here it's very nice. Our version of the Chumash calls it a stranger. The word is ger, which could mean maybe someone who's converting, but it also could mean essentially, some translations say alien, as in undocumented immigrant, as in someone you don't know, and as far as the laws of your land are concerned, what do you care? And that is exactly the person you're supposed to love as you love yourself, because you are not special. You're just like everybody else. And guess what? You used to be the outsider trying to get in. So I'm struck here with this moment where, now I'm actually officiating at a wedding next weekend. And it's down the D.C. area. And I'm going to stand in front of this lovely bride and groom. And I'm going to say these blessings and recite these formulas. And I'm going to ask the groom to put the ring on the bride's finger and the bride to put the ring on the groom's finger. And I'm going to say to them, you are special to each other. You are separate. You are different. And I'm going to be lying? Is that true? Well, of course not. I mean, we know that there are people in our lives that are kadosh to us. It could obviously be a spouse, could be a parent, a child, a sibling, a best friend, a colleague, or it could be a fellow member of our tribe, a Jew. They're special. We care about them a lot. But the Torah is saying don't make special. So how do we reconcile this? And my belief is that essentially human beings need to feel special even if we are not. In other words, if the commandment from the Torah is that we are meant to go out into the world and treat everyone as if they were a child of God, which the Torah tells us we must do. We must go out into this world and treat everyone as if they were a child of God. Treat everyone as special. Have bags in our cars that we give to the homeless person because the homeless person we should love as much as ourselves. That's what the Torah says for us. That's what it asks us to do. But that's exhausting. It's just so exhausting. And one of the calamities of our modern age is that in an increasingly larger and larger and larger community, there are just more and more and more people, and who can have so many faces flashing before their eyes and make each one special and make each one important. Walk through Times Square, right? And try to make everyone important and special to you. Try to think of each person you see as a child of God. After 5 minutes, you're going to need a cup of coffee and to lie down. It's impossible. And so we have relationships that we create in order to enter into a sort of a kind of a play, a drama of specialness. The fact is that young people getting married, we're going to tell them that they are special to each other. because they need to be special to each other. They need to love each other. Why? Because that's the way they're going to be able to get through the day to then go out into the world and share that love with others. We need our batteries recharged through what is ultimately perhaps not true. We are not special. As the psalmist says, we are like blades of grass. We will pass on. We are dust. But if we think like that, we'll never be able to go out and offer a hand to the stranger or feed the one who's hungry. Now, the implications of this, I believe, and I'll end with this, are that in fact, as the Torah finishes up here, there's a very interesting moment where it says, "You shall be holy to me." This is the second to last verse in our Torah portion. "You shall be holy to me, says God, for I, the Lord, am holy, and I have set you apart from other peoples to be mine." And this always is a fascinating discussion. When it says right in the verse that the Jews are chosen, the Jews are special, the Jews are different. God has a special relationship with us, says the Torah right here. But I wonder if, in fact, this is just like the marriage vow. That, in fact, God loves all of God's children exactly the same. God loves the non-Jew as much as the Jew. But for us, we want a little extra. We want to feel loved in a special way. And so God says, okay, look, I know I want you to be a light unto the nations. I want you to go out and love the rest of the world. I want you to spread light and love throughout the world. You're not going to be able to do that if you just feel like another people, if you just feel like another schmo on the street. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do this. I'm going to tell you, Jewish people, you are special. You are different. You are chosen. I love you in a very special way. And now go out and treat everybody with love, even those who are not like you. And it's God's way, I believe, of helping us get to that place of a universal love, of a universal embrace, which is indeed our calling. To be a light unto nations is to be able to step outside our walls. The chuppah, the wedding canopy, has no walls. We tell these people they're special to each other. We say you're different to each other, but guess what? The reason is that you can bring others in and that you can send that love out. Shabbat shalom.
The Chatzi Kaddish before Musaf is on page 374. 374.
יתקדל ויתקדש שמר הבא, ינמד יברק אלותי וימליק מלכותי, בחיי כלנו בימי כלנו חיי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב וימרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבם מברך, לעולם ולעלמי עלמיא. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתשומע ויתנשא, יתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבקתה ונקמתה דמירן מעלמה ואמרו, אמן.
Page 376.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון. חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות. ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם, אדוני מקיים את אימתיו להושיע. מקלקל חיים בחסד, מקיים מתים ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים. ומקיים אמונתו לשני עבר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך? מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיע ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים.
Page 378.
נריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח סלפי קודש, המקדישים שמך בקודש. ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. כבודו מלא עולם, כבודו מלא עולם, בשרתיו שואלים זה לזה. איה מקום כבודו, איה מקום כבודו, לעומת המלוך יאמרו. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. במקומו הוא יפן ברחמים, ויקונם המייחדים שמו. ערב הבוקר בכל יום תמיד, פעמיים יהבה שמה אומרים. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. הוא אלוהינו,
הוא אלוהינו,
הוא אבינו,
הוא אבינו,
הוא מלכנו,
הוא מלכנו,
הוא מושיענו,
הוא מושיענו,
והוא ישמיענו,
והוא ישמיענו,
ברחמיו שנית,
ברחמיו שנית,
לעיני כל חי, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור, ימלוך אדוני לעולם. כי אל מלך גדול, כי אל מלך גדול, גדול וקדוש אתה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור ודור נגיד גודלך. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לא ימוש לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול, כי אל מלך גדול, גדול וקדוש אתה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור ודור נגיד גודלך. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נכניש. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Continuing with quiet prayer through page 394.
עושה שלום עם רמה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ואמרו אמן.
May be seated. Full Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה, ילמד יברא כרותי וימליק מלכותי ויקונו וימלכונו ויקונו בישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם עולם ועלמיים. יתברך וישתבח ויתרום ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתדע ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודשה. בדקו לאל המין כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונקמתה, דמרן ועלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צבאתו ובאתו כל ישראל, קדם ובהון ושמיים ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה משמי וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
On page 400, Ein Kelohenu.
Ein Kelohenu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkenu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Kelohenu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kemalkenu, Mi Kemoshienu. Nodel Elohenu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkenu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Elohenu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkenu, Baruch Moshienu. אתה הוא אלוהינו, אתה הוא אדוננו, אתה הוא מלכנו, אתה הוא מושיענו. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כאויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגול עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגביהם מרוממים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אין לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם עד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We pause now offering condolences of the congregation to members of our community who have been bereaved during the past week. This week to the family of the late Faye Hubert, to the family of the late David Levine, and to the family of the late James Jim Wolfe. In solemn testimony to that unbroken chain of faith that links us one generation to the next, those who are in mourning, anyone else, if you're observing Yahrzeit today, will you please rise? Mourner's Kaddish, page 410. 410, Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kari v'imru, amen. Yahei shemei Rabbah mevorach la'olam u'lalmei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudsha barichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mumav hu'ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May be seated. Congregation extends a mazal tov this morning. Congratulations to Dr. Jordan and Stephanie Stewart on the bar mitzvah of their son Brennan, and to Brennan's grandparents, Dr. Carrie and Sherry Stewart, and Jerry and Martha Benish. Mazel tov as well to Matthew and Andrea Friedman on the bat mitzvah of their daughter Olivia, to her grandparents as well, Linda and Edward Friedman, and recalling today the memory of deceased grandmother Janet Taylor. Mazel tov also to Susan and Hal Hackerman on the marriage of their daughter Erin, to Michael Schulder, and to Dr. David and Cheryl Riker on the marriage of their daughter Alana, to Keith Levin. Schedule of services for the remainder of the weekend: this evening, Mincha Marav Havdalah services, Streaming only to begin at 8 o'clock. Sunday services in the morning, 9:15, Sunday afternoon at 5:30, Sunday morning, live here, and also streamed Sunday evening is online only. After the service today, Matthew and Andrea Friedman request that their guests proceed to the Offit Auditorium for their private luncheon in honor of Olivia's bat mitzvah. Offit is out the doors to the right, and Dr. Jordan and Stephanie Stewart request that their guests proceed to the Myers Auditorium for their private luncheon in honor of Brennan's bar mitzvah. Myers is out the doors to the left. Again, Offit, Friedman to the right, Myers, Stewart to the left. Okay? And congregation is cordially invited to a kiddush, which will be held in the Weil Mandel lobby, which is also out towards the right. And I'd like to ask Olivia at this time and Brennan if they'll come forward and share some thoughts with us, the occasion of their B'nai Mitzvah.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you all for coming. I'm very grateful to have all of you here today to help me celebrate becoming a bat mitzvah. A bat mitzvah in the Jewish culture, to me, is a huge privilege because I've learned so much about the Jewish culture and what it has to give. That has changed me as a person. How did it change me, you ask? Well, I've now shown people more respect, especially to my elders. I show more kindness to my peers and to all, and being honest to everyone. Now, I know many people think being Jewish is all about working your way up to your bar or bat mitzvah. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's also about becoming a better self and becoming mature enough to take big steps in your life. Today's the day that I take more responsibility for my actions and words. I promise to help around the house, help others when they need it, and be there for my friends and family when they need me. Now, I'd like to thank those who came out to help me celebrate today. I would like the family who came out from New York, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Tennessee, and of course, further away in Maryland. I appreciate you all coming out to help me celebrate today. I would also like to thank all my friends who came out here today. You guys are the ones who keep me grounded, smiling, laughing, and always ready for an adventure, and I just want to let you all know that I love you guys. I would also like to thank my parents who have been there for me when I need them. You helped me out with my sports and all the time, getting better and constantly loving me and helping me grow to be a better person every day. I love you guys so much. Now, Logan, I love you more than you know. Your sense of humor, your craziness, and your lovingness always keeps me smiling and laughing. I want to thank you for helping me practice for my sports and always being there for me. Keep cheering me on the sidelines. I love you so much. Lastly, I would like to thank my tutors and the rabbis and Cantor King that helped me prepare for this moment and have been helping me today. Finally, I'm so grateful that you are all here today supporting me and just being here today, and I want to say thank you. I now ask my family and friends to rise for the Shehechianu, which we use to celebrate all special occasions.
Will Olivia's family and friends please stand with her for the Shehechianu blessing?
Yes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehechianu b'kiyamanu b'higianu lazman hazeh.
That was a lot. I want to thank everybody who helped me achieve this special milestone in my life. I especially want to thank my parents, my sister, my grandparents, and all my friends and family who supported me along the way. Thank you to Tova King, Cantor King, and all the other tutors who helped me learn my readings. Lastly, thank you to Maura Allen at KSDS for helping me write my Devar Torah. To me, becoming a bar mitzvah is a very special honor. For as long as I can remember, Judaism has been a very important part of my life. I've been surrounded by a Jewish community for about 8 years, and I've learned a lot from it. Not only did it teach me Hebrew that helped me with my bar mitzvah, but the Jewish community has supported me when I got into an accident and broke my teeth. When I encountered some people in that community, they were there for me and helped me get through that tough time. My school friends and family went out of their way to cheer me up by getting gifts from me, to check on me, and some even got me my favorite treats. The love and caring I felt during one of the hardest times in my life is the reason why being in a strong Jewish community is important to me. My family has been going to this synagogue since 1948. It is special to me that I am a fifth-generation member of this synagogue. My great-great-grandfather, great-great-grandparents, grandparents, aunt, and my parents have all celebrated special moments at the synagogue. It is an honor for me to become an adult Jew at this very place. As an adult Jew, I will have more responsibilities, not just religious ones, but I'm growing up and I hope to carry on the Jewish values and traditions that my family has taught me. I would ask to. Family and friends, can you please rise for the Shechianu? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shechechianu, v'kiyamanu, v'higianu, la'azman ha'atzeh.
Amen. Amen. On page 412, our concluding song, Adon Olam.
I know we're in the book of Leviticus right now, but we're going to sing a song from a different part of the Torah. Way back at the beginning, it's a song about Adam. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol Yitzir nivna, Ein nasa b'chefzo kol, Azai melech shemo nikra, Ve'acharei kiglot hakol, Levado yimlot nora, Ve'hu haya, Ve'hu hove, Ve'hu yeh betifara. אחד ואין שני להמשיל לו להגבירה בלי ראשית בלי תגלית ולא העוז והמשרה והוא אלי וחי גואלי בצור כבלי ועת צרה והוא ניסי ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום מקרא
Kein Berach Adonai Yom HaShabbat B'Kadashechu Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei Peri HaGafen.
Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and protect you.
Yair Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha.
May God show you kindness and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
Bestowing favor upon you, granting you peace.
Amen. Simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov. Hazanko.
How you feel? Good?
Happy.